There's no mistake in our reservation for 7 people. I'd appreciate if you could prepare a separate seat for this lady who isn't included in the count.
It was characteristic of Elizabeth, who is my husband's mother, to loudly make such demands, always taking pleasure in teasing me. However, days like this would likely come to an end today, because I know a secret she's been keeping. And in today's family gathering, I've resolved to expose it all. My name is Natalie. I'm 28 years old and work as a chef. I successfully graduated from culinary school and have since been working at a highly rated Western restaurant in the city. It was there that I met George, a friendly customer who would become my husband. George inherited a historic electronics store that has been loved by the community for 3 generations. Last year, his father passed away, and since then George has taken over as the 3rd-generation owner. I was raised in a normal-looking household, but my father, mother, and even my brother are all professionals in the culinary world. Growing up in such an environment, I've been exposed to a wealth of cooking techniques and knowledge from a young age. Thanks to this upbringing and my innate talent, I graduated at the top of my class from culinary school. I'm usually reserved, but I've always been confident in my culinary skills. However, after marrying George, that confidence began to waver a bit. This was due to the close living arrangement with Elizabeth that began shortly after our marriage. It was common for George to live in the same house with his parents. After his father's death, he was genuinely concerned for his grieving mother. Seeing that, I agreed to his request to live together. I had strongly hoped to enjoy the early days of marriage just the 2 of us. I did imagine that George, being the eldest son, would live with his parents eventually. But I never thought it would be right after our marriage. If he had conveyed this earlier, we could have discussed it before getting married. Maybe he didn't want to upset me or had his own reasons. Regretting it now wouldn't change anything. When we started living together, Elizabeth was kinder than I expected. She would buy me cream puffs from my favorite bakery, and when it came to household chores,
You're busy, so it's okay to slack off a bit.
she took on most of the housework. However, there was one thing that concerned me. She prepared our daily meals, but the seasoning was a bit different from my taste. Every dish was very salty. I had previously heard that Elizabeth was from the northern regions, so I thought it might be characteristic of that area. I recall seeing information in magazines or on TV shows stating that people from the northern regions prefer saltier tastes. But I understood that this was just one perspective or general information. In fact, I have a colleague at work from the north who always says she prefers a lighter salt taste. Yet, the dishes Elizabeth made were vastly different from what I'd heard or from my colleague's preference. For instance, when looking at her stew, even though the ingredients should have vibrant colors, they were overshadowed by the intensity of the sauce. Tasting it felt like directly putting concentrated sauce in my mouth.
If the food doesn't have enough flavor, it doesn't feel satisfying, right? Natalie, please eat plenty.
With inner doubts thinking, is this the standard taste? I looked to see my husband's reaction, and he commented,
Did you adjust the taste to be a bit lighter today?
Yes, I considered Natalie's preference and made it a tad lighter than usual.
I thought to myself, this is considered light? I can hardly describe the surprise I felt at that moment. As these days continued, possibly due to consistently consuming Elizabeth's cooking, my taste buds began to dull. At work, when preparing dishes, I started doubting my own sense of taste. Thankfully, the final taste checks were done by the head chef, so there were no major issues. However, for me, it was a serious concern. To cope with Elizabeth's heavy seasoning in daily meals, I devised a plan. One of the solutions was to wake up earlier than her and prepare my own breakfast. This new routine helped prevent a decline in my work performance. But this new approach backfired, making Elizabeth's attitude towards me frosty. When I greeted her in the morning, she began to ignore my words and pass by. One evening, when I asked her opinion on a dish I'd put a lot of effort into, she responded,
Did you really season this properly? I understand you're busy, Natalie, but the basics of cooking are important.
I use seasoning adequately when preparing this. I believe it has a rich taste. Despite my reply, she continued,
That's why I'm saying it's bland. You can't even understand such a basic thing.
But adding more seasoning wouldn't be healthy, don't you think?
What's wrong with enjoying delicious food? Don't overestimate yourself just because you can cook a bit.
Saying this, she added a significant amount of sauce to the dish I had prepared. Do they think I'm acting arrogant? I'm also considering health issues. I felt that there might be some reason or background to her change in attitude. My husband has two older sisters, both of whom have established their own families and are living with their husbands and children. Both sisters were very friendly and had warmly welcomed me from the beginning of our marriage.
If you ever have trouble or concerns with our mother, let us know. We'll intervene and help.
Such encouragement made me feel cherished, even though we had just gotten to know each other. The husbands they chose were also very friendly and helped create a harmonious atmosphere within the family. Especially Emily has a lovely 5-year-old daughter, and a grand birthday celebration for her was planned at her house. I was asked to help with food preparation, which I gladly accepted. As a result, the dining table was filled with a variety of dishes. Each dish was distinctively unique, colorful, and very appetizing. As the party began,
My daughter really loves the spaghetti from the restaurant where Natalie works. Being able to enjoy that taste at home is wonderful.
Emily said, full of admiration. I'm truly happy to hear that. Please eat a lot. I replied, unable to hide my joy.
Thank you for making this spaghetti. It's really delicious.
She expressed her gratitude with sparkling eyes.
Everyone, please try this stew I made. It's exceptional.
She said, slightly shyly, offering her dish to Emily's daughter.
That stew makes my mouth feel spicy when I eat it, so I don't like it.
Emily's daughter frowned and declined.
Can I have some more water?
He said after trying a few bites, barely keeping a smile. His glass was completely empty after a few sips.
Mom, I've always felt your seasoning is a bit heavy, but today's is especially so. Maybe you can learn some cooking tips from Natalie?
Shut up.
She exclaimed angrily and left the scene. I somewhat regretted offering to help with the cooking from the start. Amidst the sour mood, the party ended quickly. I'm sure Emily meant her words lightly, but not just me. Elizabeth must have put love and effort into her dishes as well. It felt unjust for our heartfelt efforts to be belittled with a mere comment. I'm truly sorry for causing trouble today. That night, I mustered the courage to express my apologies to her.
You should try not to act so high and mighty. This isn't your house after all.
She responded coldly, much sharper than I'd anticipated. From the next day, life became increasingly tough. She would recklessly season the meals I'd carefully prepared, and on the worst days, she'd even throw them away midway through eating. I turned to my husband, seeking support in these trying times.
Did you, by any chance, antagonize her? Maybe you should try listening more. Aren't you overreacting a bit?
He failed to take my distress seriously. Moreover, despite being married for only half a year, he began coming home late, often not until midnight. He'd claim it was work, but he even started missing family events, like Emily's daughter's birthday party. The strain in our marital relationship deepened with each passing day. We were married for only half a year, so the idea of divorce felt premature. But then, another hurdle arose. Elizabeth tripped on our stairs and severely injured her leg. Although Emily kindly offered to help with her care,
You're the wife of this house in name, right? So, it's only natural for you to take care of me.
ever since that declaration, my daily life dramatically changed. From minor tasks to major requests, attending to her needs became a daily routine. Even during work hours, I'd frequently receive calls from her, disrupting my tasks to cater to her whims. Initially, my colleagues were understanding, but their patience wore thin due to constant interruptions. I eventually decided to resign. When Elizabeth learned about it,
So, you've quit your job. How pitiable.
she teased, clearly unable to hide her glee. Ever since then, my days were consumed with meeting Elizabeth's spontaneous demands. At all hours, both my mind and body were worn down. My husband's reduced presence at home weighed heavily on my heart. According to him, due to work-related demands, he often had to spend nights at the office. But I couldn't shake off my doubts and found it hard to believe him. I began to ponder our next steps. I couldn't stand by and do nothing any longer. Amidst these thoughts, I concluded that I should teach Elizabeth and husband a lesson. A few days later, on a bright morning, an opportunity arose. The three of us sat down for breakfast together. I've been thinking that maybe it's time for us to consider getting a divorce. At my words, both of them looked back in shock.
What? This is so sudden. We're still newlyweds. Also, aren't you the one worried about what people will think? Are you suspecting I'm cheating on you? I'd never even think of that.
I'm truly surprised. Do you intend to tarnish our family's reputation over this? Natalie, aren't you being a bit thoughtless?
You rarely come home, and Mom constantly belittles me. I can't be satisfied in such a household environment. I've made up my mind. Confronted with my newfound resolve, they were taken aback.
I'm sorry. I'll try to be more attentive to our home life. Even if you'd like to take a break and go to your parents for a change of pace, I'll understand. But considering Mom's leg injury, could you still help her out for a while?
Seeing my husband apologize, I felt a bit disoriented. But I could also sense a slight hint of resentment in him.
I'd like you to reflect a bit more on the events that transpired. There are many things I'm not content with either. But can't we keep trying to live together? Maybe your feelings might change, and we might change too.
At those words, I took a deep breath and tersely replied, "I'll think about it." At that moment, a smug smile appeared on their faces. Seeing that expression, their blood ties were evident. For the next few days, the atmosphere at home shifted. My husband began returning home earlier from work. However, this peace was short-lived. He started coming home late again, and Elizabeth's behavior reverted to its previous coldness. While her injury didn't seem to be improving, she frequently went out. As I questioned her actions, I was soon to discover a shocking truth. One day, my cell phone rang incessantly. The callers were my husband and Elizabeth.
Natalie, where are you right now? Why did you leave Mom all by herself? What happened?
His voice was filled with anger, and I felt he wouldn't understand my perspective. I'm at my parents' house right now. But didn't you agree to me returning home?
That was supposed to be a temporary solution. Mom isn't fully recovered yet. What went wrong?
Amidst the noise in the background, I recognized the distinct voice of Elizabeth. I'll never return to that house. I want all future communications to go through lawyers. Saying this calmly, I hung up. For the next few days, I enjoyed a peaceful time at my parents' house. My parents cooked my favorite dishes, and I felt deeply grateful for every meal. In return, I also cooked for them.
Natalie, your cooking is still the best.
Hearing this from my mother, tears of happiness welled up in my eyes. On one of these peaceful days, I received an unexpected message. Seeing the name displayed on my smartphone screen, I was momentarily stunned. It was from the one person I least wanted to be involved with, Elizabeth. The message contained an apology for her past actions and an invitation to her upcoming birthday party. Honestly, I didn't want to accept the invitation. However, the venue was a renowned restaurant, which is rare to get a reservation. Considering it as a bit of a luxury treat, I decided to attend and conveyed my intention. Elizabeth seemed even happier than expected and shared the details. And then the day came. The venue was an upscale restaurant near the station, becoming increasingly popular among food enthusiasts. The reason being, a new chef who had trained in France and had recently returned after rigorous training overseas. His dishes were acclaimed as authentically French, receiving rave reviews from gourmets in the city. Upon arriving at the main entrance of the restaurant, I saw George and Elizabeth already waiting. Recognizing me, they both wore a surprisingly smug expression. The attendees of the party were the same as last time: Emily, her husband, their children. It was a small gathering of 8 people. The topic of divorce hadn't been shared with them yet, and I planned to break the news at the end of the night. After a while, they arrived with smiles on their faces.
Natalie, it's been so long. You look a bit slimmer. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. And so, we headed into the restaurant.
Excuse me, the reservation list indicates 7 people. Could you please confirm?
I was internally surprised.
Yes, my reservation for 7 people is correct. Could you prepare a separate seat for this lady?
She was clearly referring to me.
Wait, Natalie, why is this happening?
I'm as surprised as you are. It seems there's a surprise tonight. I'll ask the waiter if they can accommodate service at another seat. The waiter kindly guided me to a different seat, positioned in a way that it was slightly hidden from them. As everyone sat down and started eating,
This spaghetti tastes just like the one Natalie makes.
I felt warmed by her comment.
This restaurant's dishes have become even more delicious since they got the new chef. Especially the meat dish that's coming out later. It's highly recommended.
George nodded in agreement. The anticipated meat dish was brought, and its lavishness raised everyone's expectations. Delicious-smelling dishes were constantly being brought to Emily's table. Meanwhile, not a single dish had been served to George and Elizabeth.
Why is our food taking so long?
Her voice was quite loud, causing nearby customers to glance over.
I deeply apologize. The chef is preparing something special for the two of you, so it's taking a little extra time. Please wait for just a bit longer.
Despite her annoyance, Elizabeth's face showed a hint of satisfaction knowing they were getting special treatment.
A chef's special dish. That's exciting.
Soon after, footsteps could be heard coming from the kitchen. Their expressions froze in surprise because it was me, dressed in a chef's hat and apron.
What, Natalie? Why are you dressed like that?
Though, this must be Natalie's surprise. This is really fun.
While Emily and her husband enjoyed my appearance, George and Elizabeth were taken aback. I gently smiled and set the specially arranged dishes before them. I've prepared a special menu just for the two of you. At the center of Elizabeth's plate, a beautiful black lump was garnished with a rich sauce. I've accentuated this using a special sauce. I'll add a little more topping to this sauce. Pouring more sauce on the dish, I felt satisfied seeing Elizabeth's surprised face. And here's a special dish for you, sir. On George's plate, various batteries were beautifully aligned, each shining brightly. Also, please try it with this special sauce. Placing an elegant sauce bottle on the table. Watching the service, Emily's daughter laughed cheerfully. They looked a bit surprised yet intrigued. They both were reddening with anger.
This is unbelievable. I've never seen such inappropriate service. Call the manager.
I'm the person in charge here. Is there a problem?
Are you the one allowing such disrespectful service? This is unforgivable. We're going to exercise our rights as customers and sue you.
Feel free, but we're also considering legal action for the disruption you've caused.
How dare you?
It turns out that they often visited this restaurant, always being demanding. They constantly complained about the food. The staff already saw them as problematic customers.
Until now, considering our familiar relationship, we've treated you with leniency. But now that Natalie has chosen to distance herself from you too, we will treat you impartially. Is that okay, Natalie?
Of course, Peter. Elizabeth and George were utterly stunned upon realizing that the person in charge of this renowned restaurant was my brother. In reality, this popular restaurant was a product of Peter's diligent management and hard work. They had not been informed of this fact. Peter had previously undergone advanced training in France, and because of his work commitments, he was unable to attend our wedding. Although he had sent a generous wedding gift, he had never spoken with Elizabeth or George before. However, he remembered their faces because he had received pictures from family gatherings.
I couldn't attend the wedding, so I wanted to greet you when you visited. But every time you both seemed too busy with your guest.
Elizabeth and George seemed lost for words upon hearing this.
We didn't know any of this. Could you explain?
Even though she sounded cheerful, the slight shadow in her eyes showed she was taking this matter seriously.
Actually, we came here to dine with some shopkeepers from the town's marketplace. It's trendy these days to have dinner in such modern restaurants.
At that moment, a staff member approached politely.
During your last visit, you left behind an item. Please allow me to return it.
Handing over a shimmering earring.
You often dine here with men wearing earrings. Isn't that a bit risky?
I was momentarily surprised by Emily's question, but chuckled. Well, it's not exactly like that. You see, he's secretly involved with the woman who works at the flower shop across the street. George's face momentarily froze in surprise. How did I come to know of this secret? A few weeks ago, I had felt suspicious and hired a detective to investigate. As a result, I had obtained several photos of him enjoying dinner with her at this restaurant and even moments where they entered a hotel together.
To be honest, I felt more comfortable with her. Marrying you was a mistake. I'm planning to file for divorce. Just be prepared.
This was the first time George had openly spoken about divorce. But for me, it was a moment I had anticipated. Just don't forget to pay the alimony.
Don't worry. I recently secured a big business deal, and financially, I'm pretty well off now. I'll gladly pay all of the alimony in full.
Hearing that gives me peace of mind. Now, about you, Elizabeth. Until now, Elizabeth had been wide-eyed at the unfolding conversation. She was a regular at this upscale restaurant and was known by the staff.
What do you want from me? Since my husband passed away, I don't think anyone has the right to complain about my behavior.
Actually, I had a detective thoroughly investigate your secrets too. It turned out you've been in a secret relationship for 5 years. But wasn't it just a year ago that your husband passed away?
What are you talking about?
Emily and her siblings, hearing this for the first time, stared at their mother in shocked anger. For them, who had deeply cherished their father, this revelation was unbearable. Although I too was surprised by the investigation's outcome, when I asked the detective why he knew so much about Elizabeth, it turned out that their father had once hired the same detective agency.
You deceived him for so long, even while he was still alive. And George, even while with Natalie, you were seeing another woman? How could you?
In Emily and her siblings' eyes, deep anger and disappointment shone. The tense atmosphere at our table had caught the attention of other diners, who started glancing our way. We promised to resolve this matter at home and called it a night for the dinner. As I left, I high-fived the restaurant staff and Peter, expressing my gratitude. A few days later, under the stern gaze of Emily and her siblings, George and I proceeded with the formal divorce process.
Now I'm free. I won't regret anything, no matter what happens.
He stated confidently.
I never expected this outcome. Even after I told you about my bad leg, I never imagined being treated this way.
Watch your step.
What?
She recoiled in surprise. In truth, her leg had already healed. Yet she had been pretending to be in pain to maintain a superior attitude towards me. Her behavior once again left me in shock. For me, from now on, both she and my husband will be strangers. Although our marriage ended within a short span of a year, I had no regrets whatsoever. A few days later, when I checked my bank account, I was shocked to see that the alimony from both my husband and his mistress had been deposited simultaneously. It seemed like my husband covered her share as well. Knowing this fact, I could finally view them as no longer being a part of my life. Subsequently, there were some interesting developments regarding my husband and his mistress's relationship. He had gone into debt to pay the hefty alimony, but shortly after our divorce was finalized, she dumped him quite easily. From the information I received from Emily, it was revealed that the woman is infamous in the area for targeting married men. After the episode at the restaurant, we were informed by Peter that the regular patrons were also fed up with George and Elizabeth's antics, and they were elated by our surprise. From then on, the restaurant strictly prohibited those two from entering. Moreover, their dishonest attitudes quickly became known throughout the community. A major contract that my husband had been boasting about was eventually canceled. His electronic store had been sustained by the deep trust of the local community. Now that this trust has been lost, it's not hard to imagine that future management will be challenging. Elizabeth's subsequent life became quite difficult. Suddenly abandoned by her longtime lover, further medical tests revealed that her unhealthy lifestyle was affecting her health. Her health condition was significantly tied to her own way of living, which wasn't deserving of any sympathy. On the other hand, I was fortunate enough to return to the Western-style restaurant where I used to work. At this restaurant, even though they knew about my past, the staff and management warmly welcomed me back.
The spaghetti lady.
Emily and her family still came to this restaurant often, and their presence was a significant support for me. They had decided to completely sever ties with George and Elizabeth. The anger towards their actions, especially after the passing of their father and the revelation of the truth, left a deep wound in their hearts, which seemed unlikely to heal. The joy of cooking holds a significant place in my life. Feeling this happiness is the very moment I cherish the most, and when I feel truly blessed.
My name is Jake, and I'm 35 years old. It's been 15 years since I stepped into the world of the gang. I became the youngest underboss in our group. Even for someone like me, there are loved ones I care deeply about. This weekend, I visited a high-end restaurant to celebrate my sister Sarah's 39th birthday. After our parents passed away young, Sarah stepped in as a parental figure and raised me. I don't often express my gratitude, but on occasions like this, I want to show it properly. Jake, this food really lives up to its reputation. Thank you for bringing me to such a lovely place. It's nothing. At least once a year, we should indulge a little. Don't hold back, order anything you want. This really is a nice place. I'd heard good things, but it's even better than I imagined. The decor is elegant, and more than anything, the food is delicious. This is turning into a great birthday celebration. But then, something happened that ruined my expectations for this luxurious dinner. Huh. Is that you, Sarah? I'm not mistaken, right? Wow, it's been ages. How have you been? I can't believe I'm running into you here. What a coincidence. Seeing a woman of a similar age speaking to Sarah so familiarly, I asked, and who might this be? It's Jessica. She's a classmate from my middle school days, Sarah replied. That name rang a bell. Sarah once shared some stories about her struggles in middle school. It was just the other day while we were relaxing at her house. She'd have been sorting through old photos and seemed to be reminiscing about her school days. There was a classmate of mine in middle school named Jessica. She was the daughter of a company CEO, and everything about her life, her possessions, her lifestyle, was enviable. When I was in my 3rd year, our parents passed away. Jessica pretended to pity me, but she would cleverly make nasty remarks. I had no idea Sarah experienced something like that in her school years. What kind of remarks? I asked. Nothing major, just the usual. Once, my grandfather came to a parent-teacher meeting in my parents' place. Jessica saw that and said, "Sarah, is your father really that old?" When I explained that my parents had passed and my grandfather was helping me out, and that I wasn't planning to go to high school, she said, "Oh wow, that's so sad. You're not even going to high school. That's basically a dead-end life." Even hearing about it made my blood boil. Jessica apparently used her wealth as a weapon to belittle others who weren't as fortunate. She kept making those remarks until graduation. She went on to a prestigious girls' school, while I chose to go straight into the workforce. Thinking back, it doesn't leave a good feeling. I should just throw this picture out. With that, Sarah nonchalantly discarded the photo. So that's the person you talked about. Now she's just waltzed up here and started talking to you? I have a bad feeling about this. Jessica was now staring at me with an obvious lack of restraint. I can't believe I'm seeing you here. You really had it rough back in middle school, huh? But look at you now, doing well for yourself. I come to this place all the time. It's full of classy people, don't you think? Honestly, when people like you show up here, it ruins the atmosphere. Don't worry. We know how to behave properly. I'm an adult now, after all. Sure, life wasn't easy back then, but I've managed to do well for myself. Jessica clearly didn't like Sarah's calm response. Doing well, huh? But didn't you go straight to work after middle school? So where do you work now? Sarah casually named a major company. Jessica's eyes widened in surprise. After graduating middle school, Sarah worked tirelessly and developed skills that didn't rely on an academic background. If I remember right, isn't your father's company in the same industry? Sarah asked. From the conversation, it seemed that Jessica's father's business was in the same field. However, Sarah's company was slightly more prominent and well-known. Ha! Acting all confident now, are you? You know what they say, a leopard can't change its spots. Once poor, always poor. It's just in your nature. Are you really ordering the most expensive course? It doesn't suit you at all. You clearly don't know your place, Teaching poor people manners is just impossible, isn't it? It's fine. We made a reservation and fully intend to pay for everything. Oh, and who's this guy? Jessica asked, turning her gaze to me. This is my brother. He's treating me for my birthday, Sarah answered. I gave Jessica a slight nod, but she stared me up and down, clearly judging me. Oh, I thought maybe he was your boyfriend or something. Seriously? You're having dinner with your brother at your age? That's so lame. Birthdays are for kids, you know. This place isn't meant for things like that. Did you come here just because it's expensive and you wanted to experience it? Okay, fine. Happy birthday, I guess. This is so pathetic. Ha ha. She really has no filter, does she? I could see why Sarah didn't like her. This woman seemed to have spent her whole life bragging about her family's money. Just as I began to feel truly annoyed, a server came over to pour wine with graceful movements befitting such an upscale restaurant. They filled our glasses with the finest wine. For a moment, the atmosphere felt refreshed, as if we were starting over. Well, hopefully even Jessica will take the hint and leave now, I thought. Peace can be restored. But seeing the server's actions, Jessica only became more agitated. The moment the server left, Jessica aggressively confronted Sarah. Did you seriously order Romane Conti without even appreciating its value? What a waste of wine. Cheap wine is good enough for someone like you. Honestly, not knowing your place like that. How embarrassing. I'll make sure you don't make the same mistake again. With that, Jessica snatched Sarah's glass and dumped the wine over her head. Crimson stains spread across Sarah's white dress, dotting it like scars. I was so stunned that I couldn't even close my gaping mouth. Ha ha. Oh, this is priceless. You're soaked. Your makeup and dress are a mess, but honestly, this is more fitting for you. It's proof you don't belong in a place like this, Jessica sneered. How dare you work at a bigger company than us and order the most expensive course? I can't let that slide. Even if you don't like us, isn't this going way too far? Sarah protested. This is ridiculous. But Jessica ignored her, dropping her voice to a menacing tone. I'll make you disappear. I'll use the gang's power. Without caring that we were still in a restaurant, Jessica pulled out her phone and made a call. From her words, it sounded like she had connections with some gang and was giving orders. I didn't know what kind of relationship she had with them, but she spoke with a tone of authority as if she owned them. That was the moment I hit my limit. I grabbed Sarah's hand, stood up, and glared at Jessica. Hey, meet me out back. Oh, how scary. What a violent tone. So, the little brother of a poor family is a brute now. Out back, you say. You don't even know who's backing me. Fine, I'll take you up on it. Don't regret this later. You talk too much. You're nothing like my refined sister. I've had enough. I'll be the one to wipe out your family's business and your gang buddies. We paid the bill, and Jessica canceled her meal. We all headed out back. The alley behind the restaurant was dark and narrow, a place no ordinary person would pass through. But it wasn't empty. Several gang members were already gathered there, waiting like predators. So this is your plan. Ambush us here to rough us up, huh? Judging from their tattoos and demeanor, they were members of that group. They had some muscle, but they weren't unbeatable. The gang members smirked as they stared at us, likely amused by the sight of Sarah, still drenched in wine. Hey, she's not here for your entertainment, I snapped. I desperately wanted to get Sarah out of there, but there was no way I could ignore a fight that had been brought to us. Oh, here they are, Jessica said in that grating sing-song voice. Look at these two. Don't they just scream poverty? They were causing all kinds of trouble in my regular spot. I'm big on manners, so I couldn't just let it go. You're the one who poured wine on her head in the middle of the restaurant. You're the one who caused the trouble. I shot back. Ignoring me, Jessica switched back to her low, venomous tone. Take care of this woman, and while you're at it, deal with the guy too. At her signal, the gang members charged at Sarah. She screamed, but in an alley like this, no one would hear her. You cowards. Attacking a woman, and you call yourselves a gang. If you lay even a finger on her, I won't let you off easy. Come at me instead. But they ignored me, focusing on Sarah, the easier target. Damn it. I knew this group had a bad reputation, but this. Hiring gang members as personal bodyguards. Jessica must have bought them with money. I stepped in front of Sarah, blocking their attacks. Behind me, I heard her sharp intake of breath. Jake, don't push yourself. If it's about me, it's okay, she pleaded. What are you saying? If I don't protect you, who will? You just focus on keeping yourself safe. But there are so many of them. I don't know what to do. Of course you don't. You're not used to gang fights, but it's okay. I'll fight for both of us. There's no way I'm letting Jessica get her way. I swatted away the gang's punches as they came flying at me. The gang seemed slightly taken aback by my movements. It looked like they realized I wouldn't go down so easily. Come on. What are you waiting for? He's just one guy. Do your job, or you're not getting paid. Jessica screamed, clearly panicking. So it's true. You're just paying these guys to be your muscle. What a sad little woman you are. Actually, you're too old to be called a little woman. Maybe it's time you retired, old hag. Predictably, my provocation got under Jessica's skin. Her face turned red as she spat back. How dare you insult me like that? You've got no manners at all. I don't care what happens, just beat him into a pulp. But the truth was, no run-of-the-mill gang members could defeat me. I wasn't the youngest underboss for nothing. Remaining composed, I systematically took down one gang member after another. Some collapsed onto the ground, while others scrambled to flee. You've got to be kidding me. Why is he so strong? My gang members have never lost before. Jessica shouted. A beaten gang member slumped on the ground and muttered weakly, Even if you say that, it's impossible. This guy is insanely strong. You're a pathetic bunch. Are you really gang members? If people like you can get by, then standards have fallen pretty low. All right, one last guy left. The remaining gang members were already panting heavily. It was clear they were no match for me. Do something. If you lose, you'll regret it, Jessica screamed. Not a chance. Sis, stay behind cover. I'll handle this. With that, I delivered a full-force strike to the last gang member. He crumpled to the ground, leaving just the three of us, me, Sarah, and Jessica, standing in the alley. This is unbelievable. I guess poor people are just unusually sturdy. I miscalculated, Jessica muttered. You really can't shut that mouth, can you? Are you next? I don't like raising my hand against women, but you. I've got a grudge against you. You humiliated us back in the restaurant, and I hear you insulted Sarah back in middle school, too. You might think those words were nothing, but the people you said them to haven't forgotten. Fear flickered across Jessica's face as I loomed closer. Fine, I'll let you off this time. But if I catch you causing trouble in my territory again, you'll regret it. I'm not generous enough to let you off twice. Behind her, the injured gang members scattered, limping or running away, abandoned by her so-called allies. Jessica backpedaled a few steps before breaking into a run and disappearing. That woman, she's practically worse than the gang themselves. And the way she called them in, it was like second nature. She must have some real connections to the underworld. The following Monday, I woke up late in the morning to Sarah's call. Hello. Jake, can you come to my office right now? Your office? Are you sure it's okay for me to be there? Yes, it's a bit of a complicated situation. I don't have time to explain. Just come to the front of the building, please. Got it. I'm on my way. Sensing something was seriously wrong, I grabbed my things and rushed to her company. When I arrived, I was met with an unexpected sight. Jessica was standing there. This time, she wasn't dolled up. Her hair was a mess, and she looked like she'd been through hell. This doesn't look good. I'll stay out of sight and see what happens. After a while, Sarah emerged from the building. It seemed she had used her break time to slip out. I quietly revealed myself and guided Jessica into the shadows, just in case things got messy. Jessica, I was surprised when the reception called about you. What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at work? And if this is about the other day, isn't this all a bit sudden? Not that I'd want you seeking revenge anyway. Don't play dumb. Because of you two, I'm about to lose my job. What are you talking about? So the story's already made its way here. That was fast. I thought I already knew why Jessica was panicking. The day after the restaurant incident, I anonymously tipped off a tabloid about her ties to the gang. It was a sensationalist magazine, the kind that loved juicy stories about the underworld. Look at this, Jessica snapped. Daughter of a major company CEO caught with gang ties. That's what it says. They didn't name me, but anyone who knows me can figure it out. Naturally, my coworkers read it and started spreading rumors. The story is even on the internet now, so even the younger employees know. Everyone at my company knows I'm the CEO's daughter. Having a scandal like this makes me the talk of the office. I read that article too. For a tabloid, it's surprisingly accurate. It's almost like the reporter was there, watching everything unfold. But even if you deny it, the truth is the truth. That's the problem. The truth is the problem. I'm the center of my father's company. Everyone kneels to me. I can't afford a scandal like this. Well, maybe you shouldn't have been walking such a dangerous line. How does the daughter of a CEO end up mingling with the gang? You brought this on yourself, so don't blame anyone else. Don't you dare talk like it's my fault. Jessica screamed. My father has already been contacted for comment. He called me in first thing this morning and asked if the story was true. So, did you admit it? Of course not. But he doesn't believe me. He said this isn't a small issue. He might fire me. Everything I've worked for will be gone. And even worse, he said that depending on how this plays out, he'd cut ties with me entirely. What am I supposed to do now? This is all your fault for leaking that information. The moment Jessica screamed, she lunged at Sarah. Her wild, reckless movements showed no regard for limits. At this rate, Sarah was in real danger. I grabbed Jessica's raised arm without hesitation, stopping her cold. Let go of me. What are you doing? That's my line. Attacking Sarah over a news article? Talk about misplaced anger. You can't stand not getting your way, can you? A spoiled princess who grew up thinking everything would go her way. And when it doesn't, you call on the gang. People like you make me sick. What did you say? How dare you? Unlike you, who've been pampered without lifting a finger, Sarah has lived her life overcoming hardship and rising above her circumstances. I won't let you lay a single finger on her. Don't be ridiculous. I won't let some poor nobodies ruin my career. Jessica thrashed wildly, trying to break free from my grip, flailing her arms and legs like a child throwing a tantrum. Feeling uneasy at her bizarre behavior, Sarah instinctively stepped back a few paces. Hey, are you running away, coward? You're scared of me, aren't you? That's why you're stooping to such underhanded tricks. You're the one who brought in gangs to handle your dirty work. If you keep this up, I'll call my own men. Jessica stopped at my words. Your men? Are you saying you have underlings? You're slow to catch on. Didn't you notice anything yesterday? I'm the underboss of a group that's an enemy of the gang you hired. Only Sarah knows this secret. Normally, we live our lives without dragging civilians into our world. Don't lump me in with someone as vulgar as you, screaming and flailing wherever you go. Sarah's brother is an underboss of a gang. Well, that doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want. That's not fair. Desperately, Jessica pulled out her phone, dialing her usual crime syndicate contacts. Hello. Yes, it's me. I need you to come here right away. There's someone I want you to take care of. I'll double the usual pay this time. I'm in front of company building. Just listen. I'll give you the location. Wait, what? You're not coming. Then, triple. I'll pay triple. What? Why not? Don't hang up. Hello? Hello. Despite offering more money, the call was abruptly cut off. Jessica stared at her phone in disbelief, her voice trembling. What am I going to do? It seems the tabloid article has reached the gang too. They say reporters have been hounding them, asking questions about me. The same people who used to treat me so well are now turning their backs. They're refusing to take my calls and said they want nothing more to do with me. Rejected by her final support, Jessica stood frozen in despair. I took a step forward, then another, closing the distance between us. Heh, what a sight. Did you really think gang help was free? They're more sensitive to profit and loss than anyone else. You've been cut loose, Jessica. Tough luck. Jessica's expression twisted with fear. Stop. Please don't come any closer. At that moment, the rumble of an engine echoed through the narrow alley. A sleek black luxury car approached, barely squeezing into the confined space. What's this? Who would drive all the way here? And they don't look like ordinary civilians either. The car came to a stop, and an older man stepped out with deliberate, commanding movements. He glanced around before speaking in a deep, calm voice. Is there someone here named Jessica? Yes, that's me, she responded. I see. I'm the boss of a certain group. It seems you've been looking after some of my men lately. So, you're the boss of the gang I always call. Yes, that's correct. I happened to overhear your call just now and decided to come. What's going on here? Why would a group leader, embroiled in media coverage, personally come to this place? Does he actually intend to help Jessica? Thank you. Please, these people are the bad ones. Take care of them for me, Jessica pleaded. But the boss's expression darkened as he turned to her, stepping closer with each word. The panic on Jessica's face deepened. Wait, what? Why are you coming toward me? The ones you need to deal with are them. No, I've read that article too. You're the one in the wrong here, and thanks to you, my group's reputation has taken a nosedive. We're overwhelmed trying to clean up the mess you caused. Did you really think I'd let that slide? I'll warn you, I have a short temper. The boss locked eyes with Jessica, his voice dropping to a low, menacing tone. Though he appeared calm on the surface, his presence was overwhelmingly intimidating. So, the boss's real target is Jessica. Perfect. I'll lend him a hand, I thought. The two of us, me and the boss, closed in on Jessica, trapping her between us. Without the combat skills or survival instincts of someone familiar with the underworld, Jessica had nowhere to run. Boss, we're victims of this mess too. Like you, I believe Jessica needs to be taught a lesson. I'll assist you however I can. Is that so? I appreciate it. And just like that, Jessica was caught. The boss grabbed her, restraining her movements with ease as he spoke quietly into her ear. This time, you really made a spectacle of yourself. Lucky for me, your little phone call saved me the trouble of tracking you down. Now then, what should we do with you? Please no. Have mercy. I've already been fired from my company, and my father's about to disown me. I have nowhere left to go. Don't make this worse for me. Jessica's desperate plea for sympathy only made the boss smirk with a sinister glint in his eyes. Nowhere to go. Well, that works out perfectly. I've got a great offer for you. I'll give you a place to live and a job to do. Wait, really? You will? Oh, absolutely. A very special job. It's not something just anyone can do, but for someone like you, a spoiled rich girl, it's perfect. Yes, please. I'll gladly accept. Good. Then get in the car. Jessica's eyes lit up as she eagerly jumped into the back seat of the sleek black luxury car. Watching her, I nearly burst out laughing. That boss is infamous for using people who can no longer walk respectable paths, grinding them down in the underworld. Jessica has no idea what kind of harsh life awaits her. To think he lured her in so smoothly with his words, he's a sly one. Jessica settled into the back seat of the car, looking at the boss as if everything were perfectly in place. When our eyes met, she flashed me the same spiteful smile she had the first time we met. Sorry, poor boy. Someone as special as me is destined for a special future. Starting a new life doesn't sound so bad after all. Come on, boss, let's go. Acting like a child on a field trip, Jessica watched as the boss climbed into the seat next to her. Then, with a cold smirk, he spoke. Sure, but it seems you're under a very big misunderstanding. The special place I'm taking you to is a harsh corner of the underworld. Once you enter, you don't get out. Women like you, they're usually broken down, body and soul, until they disappear. Let's see how many years you can last. Don't worry, I'll make sure you're useful for as long as possible. The blood drained from Jessica's face. Wait, what do you mean? Where are you taking me? Somewhere you'll find very exciting. Haha. No. Stop. Let me out of here. Unable to hold it in any longer, I burst out laughing and called to her. I knew it. This is exactly where you belong. Tell me, Jessica, have you ever once thought about how it feels to be looked down on? Never, right? Well, don't worry. You're about to experience it every day. Help me. Somebody, please save me. As Jessica flailed and screamed, the boss forcefully restrained her, shutting the car door with a loud thud. Even as the car sped off, we could still see her shouting and struggling through the window. Sarah, and I couldn't help but burst into laughter, waving goodbye to the departing car. Later, I checked for any updates about Jessica, but her name and story had completely disappeared from the media. It seems she really has vanished into the shadows, losing her name and place in the world. What's this? New news. The latest headline was about Jessica's father's company. Due to rumors of gang connections, the company's reputation had plummeted. Unable to recover, it had ultimately gone bankrupt. The tabloids reported that the company's collapse was a result of poor crisis management, leaving it beyond repair. With one rival gone, Sarah's company was thriving more than ever. Today, I brought Sarah to a casual bar, the kind of place where we could truly relax. In front of us were simple, homemade-style appetizers and frosty mugs of beer. After all the chaos last time, let's drink properly tonight, I said. Thanks, Jake. That other place was nice, but I felt a little on edge. I think a place like this suits me better. I'm glad to hear that. Here, this is for you. I pulled a small paper bag from my bag and handed it to her. Thank you for raising me like a parent all these years. Oh, it. What? For me? What is it? Inside the bag, she found a small box containing a scarf. Nothing extravagant, but a nice brand. She unwrapped it and immediately put it on, the bright colors perfectly complementing her. This is beautiful. Thank you, Jake. Sorry, I can't do more. I'm always grateful for you. Embarrassed, I downed my beer to hide my awkwardness. It's perfect. I'm the one who should thank you. I'm so happy. I want to wear it every day. Hearing that made me happy too. Sarah has given me so much more than I can count. Some things were visible, but others were intangible yet priceless. From now on, I want to repay her little by little, in every way I can. My name is Jordan, and for years, I worked at Hawthorne Technologies, a mid-sized IT company that had its fair share of ups and downs. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady, and in this economy, that was enough for me. I had worked my way up from the bottom, starting as a junior developer fresh out of college to becoming one of the lead engineers in the company. things were good, and I was proud of the work I did. But all of that changed on a cold, dreary Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk, sipping my third cup of coffee, trying to fix a bug in a project we had been working on for weeks. The office was quiet. Most people were either heads down in their work or out in meetings. I had my headphones in, focused on the screen in front of me, when I saw him. Gavin Hawthorne. He was the CEO's son, and he had recently been given a more prominent role within the company. Gavin was young, just a few years older than me, and arrogant. He was the kind of guy who didn't earn his position, but rather was handed it on a silver platter because of his last name. I didn't have much to do with him, but I had heard the whispers around the office about his management style: pushy, demanding, and sometimes downright mean. He walked into the room with that confident, almost cocky stride, his eyes scanning the place as though he owned it. His gaze landed on me, and I immediately felt a sense of unease. "Jordan, can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked, his voice lacking any warmth. I pulled my headphones off, trying to read his expression. Something about it didn't sit right with me. "Sure, what's up?" I replied, trying to sound casual. He motioned for me to follow him, and I grabbed my things, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. We made our way to the break room, away from prying eyes. Once we were alone, he turned to me, a look of cold determination on his face. "Jordan, we're letting you go," he said, almost as if he were reading off a script. My heart skipped a beat. "What? Why?" "I've been with the company for almost 5 years. I'm one of the lead engineers." "I know," he said, barely meeting my gaze. "But my father has decided to go in a different direction. We're restructuring the team, and we don't need someone like you anymore." I blinked, trying to process his words. "What are you talking about? You can't just fire me like this. I've been loyal to this company. I've given it my all." His expression remained indifferent. "It's not personal, Jordan. It's just business." I could feel the anger rising in me, but I forced myself to stay calm. "This is bullshit, Gavin. I've worked harder than most people here. I've sacrificed my time, my energy, and now you're just going to throw me out? You don't even have a real reason." Gavin sighed, clearly bored with the conversation. "Like I said, it's not personal. It's just how things are now." I was stunned. This wasn't happening. Not to me. Not after everything I'd done for this company. I wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, but instead, I just stood there, feeling my world crumbling around me. "Fine," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "If that's how it is, then I guess I'm out. But you'll regret this, Gavin. You'll see." He didn't respond, just turned and walked out, leaving me standing there, completely numb. The drive home that day was a blur. I had my hands gripped tightly on the steering wheel, knuckles white, but my mind was racing with disbelief. How could this happen? How could Gavin, a guy who barely knew the ins and outs of coding, fire someone like me? Someone who had worked tirelessly, put in late nights, solved the toughest problems that had stumped entire teams. I had poured my heart into that company, and it felt like it meant nothing. I replayed the conversation over and over in my mind, trying to make sense of it. There had to be some kind of mistake, right? Maybe Gavin was just acting out of impulse. Maybe he didn't have the authority to fire me. I couldn't believe that this was the end of my career at Hawthorne Technologies, not after everything I'd done. When I walked through the door at home, my girlfriend, Emma, was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, her smile quickly fading when she saw the look on my face. "Jordan, what's wrong?" she asked, setting her phone aside. I didn't have the words at first. How could I explain what had just happened? The emotions bubbling inside of me were a tangled mess of anger, confusion, and fear. I'm fired," I finally muttered, sitting down beside her. My voice cracked as I said the words, and I felt the lump in my throat tighten. Emma blinked, her expression one of shock. What? You're fired? Why? I don't know, I said, running my hands through my hair in frustration. Gavin just told me they were restructuring the team, that they didn't need me anymore. She frowned, clearly not understanding. But you've been there for so long. You're one of the best engineers on the team. How can they just get rid of you? I don't know, Emma, I muttered, looking down at my hands. I've put in so much work, so many hours, and now it's like none of it matters. My words came out in a bitter rush. I thought I was making a difference. I thought I was more than just another cog in the machine. Emma took my hand, her voice soft but firm. Jordan, you are more than that. And if they can't see it, then they don't deserve you. But what are we going to do now? I stared at her, feeling the weight of the situation settle in. Hawthorne Technologies had been my life for years. I didn't know what came next, didn't know where I was supposed to go from here. What was I supposed to do without the place that had defined my career? I felt unmoored, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. I don't know, I admitted, my voice low. I don't know what to do next. I feel lost. I've always been the one who fixed things, solved the problems. Now I'm the one who's broken. The next few days were a blur of applications, interviews, and endless emails. Each rejection stung, especially after everything that had happened. The worst part wasn't the loss of the job itself, but the realization that I wasn't as irreplaceable as I had once thought. It hurt to think that my years of loyalty had amounted to nothing more than a few words from Gavin. The feeling of betrayal gnawed at me, the anger growing with each passing hour. The future I had imagined for myself was slipping through my fingers, and I had no control over it. Then came the bombshell. I had gotten an email from a former colleague at Hawthorne, someone who had left the company a few months before I was let go. He had been a senior manager and was still in touch with some of the higher-ups. The subject line read, "You've been played." I clicked it, heart pounding in my chest as I read the message. Jordan, I don't know if you've heard the full story, but I think you should know the truth. Gavin isn't just restructuring for business reasons. His father is about to retire, and Gavin is trying to take over the company. The layoffs are part of his plan to make room for his own people. He's been pushing for your position for months now. The whole restructuring thing. It's a cover. You were targeted, and the worst part is, I'm not sure your father even knows. Be careful. I sat there, staring at the screen, my heart racing. Betrayal. That was the only word I could think of. Gavin had been playing a long game, and I had been an unfortunate casualty in his rise to power. It wasn't just about business. This was personal, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't let it slide. I couldn't let Gavin win. What bothered me most was how easily I had been manipulated. I'd been the loyal employee, the one who had always done his job without complaining, without asking for anything in return. I had trusted the system, trusted that my work would speak for itself. But it hadn't. And now, everything I had worked for felt like it had been a waste. But it was more than that. It was the way Gavin had gone about it. The coldness in his eyes when he fired me, the lack of empathy, the way he had made it sound like a business decision when in reality, it had been all about him positioning himself for power. And worse, it was the way the entire company had stood by, watching it unfold. I wasn't just fired. I was used, discarded when I no longer served a purpose in Gavin's plan. But this wasn't how my story would end. I couldn't let this go. Gavin had done more than fire me. He had taken my dignity, my years of hard work, and my sense of security, and I wasn't about to let him get away with it. He had underestimated me, and I was going to make sure he knew that. The next few days were like living in a fog. I couldn't shake the sense of betrayal that lingered, even as I put one foot in front of the other, trying to rebuild my life. I spent hours in front of the computer, scouring job boards, polishing my resume, and sending out applications. Each time I hit send, I could feel the weight of the empty inbox, the silence from potential employers who hadn't even bothered to respond. It felt like the world was moving on without me, and I was left behind, struggling to catch up. But what made the pain worse wasn't the job search. It wasn't even the financial strain that loomed ahead. It was the gnawing anger, the feeling of being manipulated, of being a pawn in a game I hadn't agreed to play. I couldn't just let this go. Gavin had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to sit idly while he ruined everything I had worked for. I decided to do what I should have done sooner: dig deeper. That's when I reached out to my old colleague, Ben. Ben had worked at Hawthorne for years before taking a new job at a competitor. We had always been on the same wavelength, and I knew he'd have some insight into what was really going on behind the scenes. "Ben, I need to know everything you know about Gavin," I said over the phone one evening. "There's something going on at Hawthorne. He's been playing a game, and I need to understand how deep it goes." Ben hesitated on the other end, and I could practically hear him weighing his options. He was cautious, but after a long pause, he finally spoke. "Gavin's been trying to take over the company for months. His dad's retirement is imminent, and he's been positioning himself to take control. It's not just you, Jordan. He's been pushing other people out too. But you were the biggest obstacle for him. You were in the role he wanted. You were the one who had everything he needed to make his move." My stomach churned. The realization hit me harder than I expected. Gavin wasn't just trying to rise through the ranks. He was planning to take over everything. I wasn't the only one being targeted. He had been quietly clearing the way, getting rid of anyone who posed a threat to his position, and I had been too naive to see it. "Are you saying he's been making moves behind the scenes, setting up people to replace us?" I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. "Exactly," Ben confirmed. "He's been moving fast, Jordan. You're not the first to get the axe, and you won't be the last. He's been consolidating power, getting rid of the older staff, those who actually know how the company works, and bringing in his own people. You've got to get out of there, man. It's toxic." But I couldn't just walk away, not after everything. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Gavin wasn't just a greedy CEO's son. He was a fraud. He had no real skill, no real vision. He was using his last name to destroy a company that I had helped build. The next day, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let Gavin get away with this. I started by gathering evidence. I combed through old emails, looking for patterns, for any sign that Gavin had been manipulating the situation for his own gain. It wasn't easy. Hawthorne's IT system was well secured, but after years of working there, I knew a few tricks. I found what I needed: internal emails where Gavin had been pushing for layoffs, making excuses for why certain employees were expendable. He was manipulating the company's financial reports, cutting costs in the areas that had the highest impact on morale, while funneling money into the areas that would benefit his power grab. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I read through the documents. This wasn't just about getting revenge on a bitter ex-boss. This was about exposing the truth, showing the world exactly what Gavin had been doing behind closed doors. He had no idea how much evidence I had, how deep I had dug, and I wasn't about to back down. But things weren't that simple. I couldn't just take this to the authorities, at least, not yet. The company was still in the early stages of transitioning to Gavin's control, and I knew that going public without the right support could backfire. I needed a plan, something that would expose Gavin's scheme without putting me at risk. That's when I turned to my network. I reached out to a few former colleagues who still had connections at Hawthorne. One of them, Carla, had worked as a senior HR manager before leaving the company a few months ago. If anyone knew the inner workings of Hawthorne's leadership, it was her. We met at a coffee shop, and after exchanging pleasantries, I didn't waste any time. "Carla, I need your help," I said, leaning in. I've got evidence that Gavin has been manipulating things behind the scenes, pushing for layoffs and restructuring to make room for his own people. I can't do this alone. I need you to back me up. Her eyes widened, and she hesitated before speaking. Are you sure, Jordan? If you go after Gavin, you could lose everything. He's got his father's ear, and there are people in that company who will do anything to protect him. I'm already losing everything. I shot back. But if I let him get away with this, it'll destroy more than just my career. It'll ruin the company, and no one will even know how it happened. I can't let him take everything down with him. Carla's expression softened, and after a long pause, she nodded. All right, I'll help. But we have to be careful. If Gavin catches wind of what we're doing, we could be in serious trouble. You've got to be ready for whatever comes next. I nodded. I wasn't afraid anymore. Gavin had taken everything from me, my career, my sense of security, and now I was going to take back control. The stakes had never been higher. The plan was set. Carla and I had gathered enough evidence to expose Gavin for the manipulative, power-hungry fraud he was. We had identified the key players in his scheme, those who had helped him orchestrate the layoffs and pave the way for his takeover of the company. We even had recordings of his meetings with senior management, where he openly discussed cutting costs by removing staff who posed any challenge to his authority. The walls were closing in on him, and I could feel it. But even with everything in place, something inside me twisted with uncertainty. Was I doing the right thing? Was I prepared for the consequences of what I was about to do? The truth was, no matter how satisfying it might feel to expose Gavin, I knew it could all backfire. This wasn't just about exposing a bad boss. It was about taking down a company that had been part of my life for years. It was about starting a war that might destroy everything I had worked for. But the more I thought about it, the clearer the path became. I couldn't let him win. Gavin had used me, manipulated me, and now he would have to answer for it. Carla had connections at a major media outlet, an investigative reporter who specialized in exposing corporate corruption. After hours of planning and careful deliberation, we arranged a meeting. This was it. I had no more time to hesitate. If I backed out now, everything would be for nothing. The day before the meeting, I felt the weight of everything pressing down on me. I sat in my apartment, staring at the stack of files on the table in front of me. My phone buzzed with messages from Emma, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What could I say? I was about to wage a war against someone with more power than I could ever have imagined. There was no guarantee that this would end well, and I was terrified. But I also knew I couldn't just walk away. I needed to finish this. The next morning, I met with Carla and the reporter at a small cafe near the city center. The air inside was thick with tension, as if the whole world was holding its breath. I slid into the booth across from the reporter, a woman in her mid-30s named Rachel, who had a reputation for uncovering corporate scandals that sent shockwaves through the business world. She greeted me with a sharp smile, and her eyes flickered over the files I had brought. "This is big," Rachel said, her tone calm but serious. "This isn't just about you, Jordan. If this gets out, it could be the end of Gavin's career, and the company's too." "I know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart pounded in my chest as the enormity of the situation hit me once again. But he deserves to be held accountable. What he's done to Hawthorne is nothing short of criminal. He's used his father's retirement as an excuse to gut the company and fill it with his own people. He's ruined lives. Rachel nodded, her gaze intense. "We can't go public with this right away. The first step is to get confirmation from someone inside the company, someone who can corroborate the evidence. Otherwise, it's just a story without a foundation." I felt my stomach drop. If we couldn't get confirmation from someone in a position of power at Hawthorne, all of this would be for nothing. But I knew exactly who that person needed to be. Ben. Ben had been in the trenches with Gavin. He knew the inner workings of the company better than anyone. He had seen the way Gavin operated, and, as much as it pained me to ask, he was the only one who could validate everything we had uncovered. I dialed his number, my fingers trembling. The phone rang, and for a moment, I thought he wasn't going to pick up. But then his voice came through, as casual as ever. "Ben, it's Jordan. I need your help." I could feel a hesitation on the other end. "What's going on? Is everything all right?" "I've got the proof, Ben. I know what Gavin's been doing, and I'm about to take him down. But I need you to back me up. I need you to confirm everything we've uncovered. It's the only way this works." There was a long silence before Ben spoke, his voice barely audible. "Jordan, you know what you're asking, right? This isn't just about you anymore. If I help you, there's no going back. Gavin's not going to let this slide." "I know," I said, my heart racing. "But I can't let him get away with it. He's destroying everything we've worked for. Please, Ben, you're the only one who can help me." Ben sighed, and for a long moment, I thought he was going to back out. But then, finally, he spoke. "All right, I'll do it. But we have to be careful. If Gavin finds out I'm involved, it's over for both of us." I hung up, a mix of relief and fear flooding my chest. Ben was on board. This was really happening. Later that afternoon, we met at Hawthorne's headquarters. The tension in the air was palpable as Carla Rachel and I waited for Ben to arrive. I couldn't stop pacing, my thoughts racing with possibilities of what could go wrong. This was it, the final step. If this didn't work, Gavin would win. But if we succeeded, everything would change. When Ben walked into the room, I could see the weight of the decision in his eyes. He was taking a huge risk. He knew it, I knew it, and yet there was no turning back. "I'm in," Ben said quietly, his voice tinged with resignation. "Let's get this over with." As we sat down to go over the details, I felt the gravity of the moment hit me. This wasn't just about getting revenge on Gavin. It wasn't even just about saving my career. This was about holding someone accountable for their actions, for their deceit, for the people whose lives had been shattered in the wake of their greed. The first step was in motion. But I could already feel the weight of the war that was about to begin. The next few weeks felt like living in a constant state of heightened awareness. Every phone call, every email, every knock at the door sent my heart racing. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. After months of uncertainty and fear, the moment of truth had arrived. The pieces were in place. The truth about Gavin's manipulation, his attempts to take over the company by pushing out key employees, was about to be exposed. I had no idea how this would unfold, but one thing was clear: there was no turning back. We had agreed to move cautiously. Ben's confirmation had been the tipping point. With his testimony, we had the legal grounds to go public. Rachel, the reporter, had done her part by pulling in a team of investigators to verify the claims. The story was slowly building momentum. Once it hit the press, there would be no way for Gavin to deny it. His grip on Hawthorne would slip, and the truth would come to light. The morning the story was released, I woke up to dozens of missed calls. My inbox was flooded with messages. The first few were from people I hadn't spoken to in years, former colleagues who had either already left or were on the verge of quitting. Then came the messages from reporters, lawyers, and even a few old friends who had heard the news. It was happening. The story was out, and there was no stopping it. The immediate fallout was nothing short of chaos. Gavin went into damage control mode almost instantly. The media descended on Hawthorne's headquarters, and within hours, a series of internal investigations were launched. Investors pulled their funding, executives were forced to step down, and Gavin was confronted with the full extent of his actions. But the most profound moment came when I finally heard from my former boss. Mr. Hawthorne Sr., I had always respected him, even if our professional relationship had been strained at times. I had no idea what kind of conversation we would have, but I wasn't prepared for the phone call I received. "Jordan, it's Henry. I need to speak with you. His voice crackled through the phone. I swallowed hard, my heart in my throat. Of course, Mr. Hawthorne. What's going on? You know what's going on, don't you? This mess with my son, Gavin. It's a disaster. I never wanted any of this. But I didn't see it coming. I've been blinded by my own plans for the company. I'm sorry, Jordan. I should have seen it. I should have stopped him before it got this far. We're bankrupt without you. My chest tightened. Mr. Hawthorne was admitting what I had known all along. Gavin's actions had almost destroyed everything the company had built. But hearing him acknowledge it, hearing him admit his failure, was something I hadn't expected. In that moment, I realized just how much I had underestimated the role I had played in the company's success. It wasn't just Gavin who had taken me for granted. It was Mr. Hawthorne, too. I never wanted to hurt the company, Henry. I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. I've dedicated years of my life to this place. I wanted to see it succeed, not crumble. I know, Jordan, and I don't expect you to forgive me, he replied, his voice laden with regret. But I need you to know something. I'm stepping down. I can't fix this, not alone. You're the only one who can. The words hit me like a tidal wave. Mr. Hawthorne, the man who had always been in charge, was stepping aside. He was giving up his position to allow someone else to lead. And that someone else could be me. It was a moment that carried so much weight. I could feel my pulse quicken as the magnitude of the situation sank in. The decision I made next would shape the course of my future. And not just mine, but the future of the company too. A few days later, a board meeting was called. Gavin was gone. The scandal surrounding him had forced him out of the company entirely. His father, though reluctant, had agreed to the decision. The board now had to choose a new leader, and when they asked for nominations, I found myself in the midst of it all. Jordan, Mr. Hawthorne said in front of the room, it's time for you to step up. I may have failed, but you're the one who knows this company inside and out. You're the one who deserves to lead it into the future. The room went silent. All eyes were on me. There were other candidates, of course, but none of them had the history with Hawthorne that I did. None of them had the drive to rebuild the company from the ground up. I had made mistakes, sure. I had trusted the wrong people. But I had never stopped believing in what Hawthorne could be. I stood up, my mind racing. This wasn't just a position. It was a chance to rewrite the company's future, to steer it away from the wreckage Gavin had left behind. I thought about the people who had supported me through the hardest times, about the colleagues who had believed in me even when I had lost faith in myself. And then I made the decision. I accept, I said, my voice calm but unwavering. But there's one thing I want to make clear. I will rebuild this company, but it will be on my terms. I won't repeat the mistakes of the past. We will be a company that values its people, that puts integrity above all else. It wasn't an easy decision. I had spent so much time thinking about revenge, about making Gavin pay for what he had done. But standing there, looking at the board, I realized that the best way to defeat Gavin wasn't to tear him down further. It was to rise above him. It was to lead with strength, honor, and vision. In the end, the conflict wasn't just about fighting Gavin. It was about reclaiming my own sense of purpose, about learning that power, when used for the right reasons, could change not just a company, but a person's life. As I took the reins of the company, I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be more challenges, more betrayals, and more difficult decisions. But I was no longer the man who had been blindsided by a fake ally. I was someone who had learned the value of integrity, the importance of trust, and the strength that comes from standing up for what is right. And in that moment, I realized that this was the victory I had been waiting for all along. Observe your actions. We lost a significant deal as a result of your error. You should start packing your belongings in case something goes wrong. The office was filled with the thunderous roar of Casey, our department boss. Evidently, there was some sort of difficulty with a significant client contract triggered by our lovely boss. It is impossible to avoid now. This will have to be handled by me, I suppose. Tucker is my name. My age is 30, and I work at XF Foods Trading Company. Despite being here for 3 years, I don't have a title or a specific role. People label me an outsider behind my back. I automatically looked around as I heard a senior call out someone next to me. A less experienced coworker scoffed. "He means you, Tucker." Whoa, perhaps he is aware that we referred to him as outsider behind his back. I thought to myself, these guys are always so rude, but I kept it to myself. They first just went by the moniker while I wasn't present. These days, though, they seldom care to conceal it. They make fun of me without any justification. Come on, we're all adults here, even though it's possible that I've given them an excuse to treat me badly. Once more, here we go. I had become so accustomed to this type of behavior that I no longer felt frustrated or angry. I eventually came to the conclusion that it was useless to argue with those who enjoy silly group activities. To get through each day in peace, I just kept my face expressionless and my feelings concealed. However, I had no idea that one woman would begin to transform my boring, unremarkable life. A new female employee joined our department one day. My name is April. I recently become a manager in this department. I'm glad to have met each of you. Is she a manager from the start? It's a significant promotion. Well, I don't care about it. Casey turned to face me as I was thinking that, saying, "Tucker, show her around the company and explain the work to her." I was taken aback, but I managed to say, "My name is Tucker. Good to meet you. Whenever I don't understand something, Tucker, I'll ask you. I'm excited to collaborate with you." I couldn't help but think she was the total opposite of me because she was so vivacious and eager, so gregarious. I was afraid she was going to break my habit of being quiet and indifferent. I've only just started at this company, but I already have serious doubts about the current situation, April stated to me, her face intense, a few days after she joined. The way people treat you, Tucker, is the main problem, in my opinion. They're behaving like kids. Are you not annoyed by the constant harassment? Not really, I replied, looking blank as usual. I just wanted to get through the day without any problems. I performed my work effectively and was unconcerned with ambition or recognition. But April wasn't having it. If you're struggling, talk to me as your manager. Don't keep it to yourself. I want to work with passionate people. I had no intention of getting involved with anyone or letting anyone get close to me. As she spoke with such passion, I just looked at her with cold indifference. But April wasn't backing down. If anything, my attitude only seemed to ignite her determination even more. Then I'll be your shield, Tucker. Why can't she just leave me alone? Of course, my silent cry went unheard, and it wasn't long before my quiet, uneventful life started to unravel. Even though people called me an outsider, my main job was to assist the sales team. I used my experience to help make their work as smooth as possible. Tucker, I want to learn from you. Please let me observe your work. As April said this, she stuck by my side and refused to leave. Sighing inwardly, I let her observe as much as she wanted. You're really capable, aren't you, Tucker? April said with genuine admiration. Is that how she sees me? Some colleagues have said to me, "We're always grateful for your attention to detail and support." April didn't miss what she observed of my work and the few compliments I'd received. However, because April, with her good looks, kept praising me so much, the male colleagues who always harassed me were clearly not happy. Who does he think he is, acting all cocky when he's just an outsider? Such a gloomy guy, getting ahead of himself. Just wait. He'll get what's coming. This is why I didn't want anyone getting involved with me. Don't put the spotlight on someone like me, I thought to myself. April meant well, but to me, It was nothing but a nuisance. And yet, she remained oblivious to how I felt. As April settled into the company, she became a popular figure thanks to her charisma and leadership. Perhaps it was because she had become more familiar with her surroundings that she started to notice things she hadn't seen before. Ignoring my worries and confusion, April continued to engage with me. Meanwhile, male colleagues who did not find this amusing escalated their harassment of me. One day, smirking, a senior colleague kicked over a trash can and said, "Hey, outsider, this place is a mess." When I stepped forward to clean it up, a junior colleague stuck his leg out, and I tripped, falling into the scattered garbage. "Oops, my bad. My legs are just too long, you know," he said, chuckling. "Here we go again." Without a word, I started to get up and go grab a broom. But then April's voice rang out. "What kind of childish behavior is this? Can't you even clean up your own mess?" The colleagues glared at me as if to say, "Why is she defending him?" We all work for the same company, don't we? Aren't some of you able to do your jobs every day because of Tucker's hard work? As employees, we should be united in striving to make this company better. Stunned by April's anger, they muttered their apologies. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Tucker," April commanded firmly. So they reluctantly turned to me. "I apologize." I knew their apology was just for show, but if it meant I could get a brief reprieve from their antics, I would accept it. While a harassment didn't stop completely, it was less blatant. Yet when April wasn't around, they still intentionally bumped into me, knocking papers from my hands or hiding my materials. To maintain some sense of peace, I'd started taking precautions, like saving all important documents on my computer and locking the data in secure folders. Furthermore, even if the computer was opened by someone else, the important data was stored in a locked place. I would like to think that they would never do such a foolish thing, but just in case, for me, it would have been fatal if the data had been lost. So I took this precaution. One day, April approached me with a proposal. "Tucker, there's a new project coming up, and I really want you to be a part of it." "A project? I'm not worthy of that," I tried to decline. "I've seen how you work, and I'm certain of your negotiation skills and ability to handle tasks. I rely on you. It's you I want for this, so please join us." In her earnest gaze, I saw genuine respect and hope, feelings I hadn't been shown in a long time. I thought I could hear the faint sound of my heart's defenses slowly creaking open. What had made me so closed off? The answer lay in the past, memories I couldn't erase. Deep down, I was scared. I'd always believed people would betray me eventually, and that fear had kept me locked away. One day, the department was shaken by Casey's furious voice. "April, do you realize what you've done? Because of your mistake, we've lost a major contract. You'd better prepare for the worst. Start packing your things." It seemed April had caused some trouble with an important client's contract. "I'm so sorry," April said quietly, bowing her head. "Do you think an apology can fix this? You've caused this company a major loss," Casey continued, his anger unrelenting. April's face went pale as she tried to hold back tears, but eventually she broke down crying openly. "Don't think crying will get you out of this. I'll let you know what your punishment will be later," Casey snapped before storming out of the office. Even the colleagues who used to fawn over her were now silent, intimidated by Casey's outburst. The atmosphere in the office felt tense, as though something needed to be done. That's when it struck me. Wait, wasn't Nate the representative for this client? Well, if it's come to this, I guess I'll have to step up and handle it. I wanted to help April in any way I could. I couldn't bear the thought of her leaving because of this. Nate, the client representative, was someone I had known from my previous company. When I reached out, he readily agreed to meet, so April and I immediately headed over to the client's office. "Good afternoon, I'm Tucker from X Foods Trading Company. Could you please let Nate know I'm here?" We've been expecting you. Please wait just a moment. Hey, Tucker. How have you been? I didn't know you were working with X Foods Trading. It's been a while. Nate, these days, I mainly handle support for the sales team. We have a lot to catch up on, so let's grab a coffee sometime. But for today, thank you for taking the time to see us. I sincerely apologize for the trouble we've caused. I know this is a bold request, but I wanted to ask if you would reconsider. Come on, don't be so formal. Look, I understand we have to keep business and personal matters separate, but I want to maintain a good relationship with you. A request from you personally. Well, how can I refuse? It's an important deal, isn't it? Yes, I promised it will be worth your while. All right then, for your sake, I'll agree to redo the contract. Nate, thank you so much. I know you're a trustworthy guy. Tucker, if it weren't you asking, there wouldn't even be a deal to speak of. I'm counting on you. Absolutely. Thank you again. I'll take my leave now. April had been quietly observing the entire exchange, but on the way back to the office, she couldn't hold back any longer. Tucker, just who are you? She asked, ignoring the concerned glances of our colleagues who surrounded her. There was a reason I tried so hard to live a quiet, uneventful life. I had once been betrayed by someone I trusted. That idiot showing me such a brilliant idea before submitting it. Well, it's all about who gets there first. I'll submit it as my own. I wonder what'll happen to him. That's what Jesse, someone I thought of as a friend and rival, had said before stealing my idea and passing it off as his own. Jesse, how could you? I had been so angry, I nearly swung a fist at him. But then voices started whispering around us. Did you hear? Tucker tried to claim Jesse's proposal as his own, and apparently, he's been awful to Jesse this whole time too. Jesse's such a nice guy for letting it slide. Wow, really, people aren't always what they seem. Poor Jesse. My fist froze midair. Jesse watched me with a smug, victorious smile. We had been equals, competitors, pushing each other to do better. I trusted him completely. What had I been seeing all this time? Labeled as a thief, I was left isolated. The betrayal left a scar so deep that I couldn't trust anyone anymore. That distrust continued to haunt me. I was terrified. If I stood out again and grew close to someone, I might be betrayed once more. But I couldn't just quit working. Instead, I chose to keep my head down, to avoid conflict and do my job quietly. That's why I'd accepted the harassment with a blank expression, pretending not to care. I thought that if I kept to myself and maintained a peaceful life, I'd never have to experience that pain again. For the first time, though, my colleagues seemed to understand my circumstances, and something about the way they looked at me began to change. By taking the initiative and reaching out to Nate, I had managed to resolve April's crisis and avoid the canceled contract. April, this was only resolved because Tucker stepped in. But don't let something like this happen again, Casey said sternly. Yes, I'll be more careful. I'm truly sorry, April responded, standing tall and resolute. Tucker, this was all thanks to you. I'm so grateful. But even without knowing your past, I know you would never betray anyone. I'd watch how you work and how you carry yourself, and I can say for certain that you're a person of integrity. No matter what, I'll always be on your side. April's words of gratitude and encouragement resonated deeply within me. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but maybe I could start trusting people again, gradually. The harassment stopped, and even my colleagues' attitudes changed. Someone is on my side. That's been a great source of courage for me. The shift in the atmosphere around me made me realize that I, too, needed to change. It was time to finally put the past to rest and face life with a new sense of purpose. To start, I approached Casey and said, I've been working in a support role until now, but I'd like to return to being a salesperson. Tucker, I want you to take that hidden talent of yours and thrive as a salesperson, Casey said. I was actually planning to ask you myself soon. Casey responded warmly, accepting my request without hesitation. Though I was a little nervous about returning after such a long time, I knew my instincts would come back quickly. With that, I was able to make my comeback as a salesperson. Tucker, you're not someone who should be stuck in a support role. Let's give it our all together, April said, encouraging me once more. With April leading the way, our department grew more unified, and everyone began working together toward our goals. Watching her rally everyone so effectively, I realized once again that April was meant to be a manager. The sense of camaraderie we now had was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, and it was all because of April's leadership. As for me, I finally started to unleash my full potential as a salesperson. Like a fish in water, I found my rhythm and began delivering results. Seeing this, the colleagues who had previously harassed me were astonished. Who would have thought Tucker, the so-called outsider, was this capable? I'm honestly blown away. He's already surpassed my sales record. I guess I better step it up before I'm the one getting called incompetent. Tucker, you've got to teach me your tricks. The recovery marked the beginning of a shift. I was recognized as Tucker, the salesperson from XF Foods. Trading the colleagues who had mistreated me now came to apologize, one after another. It is certainly not acceptable for a good old man to insidiously harass me because he doesn't like or understand me. But I also realized I had played my part by shutting myself off and refusing to engage. I thought staying quiet would protect me. If accepting their apologies meant we could all move forward, then that's what I would do. Call it naive if you want, but I believed people could change. The fact that I now felt this way surprised even me. Let's not have this happen again, okay? I said, extending a hand. One of my former tormentors shook it, then pulled me into a half hug, throwing an arm around my shoulders. Gone were the sneers and condescending looks. Instead, I felt their respect, perhaps even admiration, for me as a salesperson. From then on, we worked together, pushed each other, and achieved success after success. Tucker, look at this. Our company has officially surpassed the performance of your former company, April said excitedly. All of our hard work paid off, I replied, genuinely pleased. My colleagues celebrated the achievement, sharing in the joy. April had fully settled in and was now an indispensable leader. Even Casey, who used to be perpetually stressed, had been smiling more often lately. But as our company grew, a new challenge emerged. Our growth had started to plateau. Because we became comfortable discussing issues openly, we brainstormed solutions together day after day. We were landing contracts steadily, but how do we take the company to the next level? We probably need a bold, innovative approach that sets us apart from the competition. An innovative approach like expanding into new markets. Exactly. First, let's reassess our strengths and weaknesses and build from there. Under April's leadership, the team grew even more cohesive. Everyone could feel the bonds deepening. After weeks of planning, we finally outlined a new project. This time, we'll launch a global campaign to promote our area's famous maple syrup. Beyond just a pancake topping, we'll highlight its versatility in meats, marinades, blazes, and more. It's a first-of-its-kind initiative, but if we succeed, it'll lead to enormous growth for the company. Let's give it everything we've got. This project required international coordination to export our products. It was uncharted territory, and we faced numerous challenges. We had to somehow clear those issues one by one, but it wasn't clear what kind of know-how we needed to handle it. Just as the team started feeling overwhelmed, April dropped a bombshell. Everyone, you're all familiar with K Corporation, right? Well, I'm actually the granddaughter of Mr. Hartman, K Corporation's chairman. The room fell silent in shock. K Corporation was one of the top 3 companies in the country. We lack the experience and know-how to expand globally, so I'm proposing we leverage the connections we have. I'll negotiate directly with my grandfather. No, with Mr. Hartman, alongside Tucker. Leave this to us. With April's bold declaration, the team agreed to pursue a partnership with K Corporation without wasting any time. April and I set off to meet her grandfather, Mr. Hartman. Granddad, I know it might seem like favoritism, but K Corporation's support is crucial for this project, April said. April, do you believe you have a winning chance? The maple farms in our area are mostly family-run businesses that maintain traditional methods while embracing modern technologies. The syrup they produce meets strict quality standards and is widely recognized. Regular festivals and events showcase not just the product, but also its cultural value, benefiting the local community. As the first step in our company's reform, we want to focus on promoting the strengths and unique appeal of our hometown. Interesting. I'll convene a meeting with the executives in 5 days to decide whether we'll partner on this project. April, I want you to present this proposal to everyone. Granddad, let's see what you've got. Take your best team and give the presentation of your lives. It's been a long time since I felt this excited. April's grandfather reportedly ended with a hearty laugh. 5 days later, April and I went from my company to the presentation. The people in the department unanimously decided that there was no one better qualified for the job than the two of us. April, Tucker, we're placing the company's future in your hands. If anyone can pull this off, it's the two of you. Do your best. Bolstered by the support of our team, we stepped through the doors of K Corporation's conference hall. To be honest, Tucker, I was naive. I thought since Granddad's family, he might just approve the project on the spot. Maybe that's exactly why K Corporation is one of the top 3 companies in the country. You're right. Our presentation has to convince them. Let's give it everything we've got. Absolutely. As we stepped onto the stage, the eyes of K Corporation's executives turned toward us. I felt a twinge of nervousness, but I also welcomed it. I took a deep breath. My name is Tucker, representing XF Foods Trading Company, and this is April, our manager. Thank you for giving us this opportunity today. Please review the materials in front of you as we explain the details. We'll have a queue and a session at the end. Taking turns, April and I presented the project, showcasing the materials our team had put together in record time. I heard murmurs of admiration from the executives of K Corporation. In just 5 days, they've created such a thorough proposal. This project is too good to pass up. It's promising from both an investment and an innovation standpoint. Mr. Hartman, we're in favor. One after another, the executives voiced their support. Tucker, April, well done. April, you've grown so much. The chairman applauded. This was followed by applause from the upper management. Thank you all. Let's work together to make this project a success. We shook hands with the executives, and the project partnership was officially sealed. We had a reliable ally with K Corporation. As we wrapped up and prepared to leave, Mr. Hartman approached me. Your presentation was excellent, Tucker. Was it? I'd love to have someone like you at K Corporation. What do you say? Granddad, you're hopeless. You're always trying to recruit talented people. Honestly, April said with a wry smile, thank you for the offer, but I still have unfinished goals at XF Foods Trading. Haha. I thought you'd say that, but mark my words, Tucker, we'll meet again one day. With a sly glance at April, Mr. Hartman smiled knowingly. Later, April confided that it was highly unusual for her grandfather to personally attend another company's presentation. I thought that would be a natural thing to do since it was a business meeting for his lovely granddaughter. But apparently, that is not the case, she said. I would later hear the reason for this from April. The project was a resounding success thanks to our partnership with K Corporation. I was afraid of what would happen at first, but you made it, Casey. Elated by the success of the project, Casey praised April with open arms. No, my granddad is never a person who brings his personal feelings into the project. I think he was just impressed by how wonderful this project was. Oh, I'm sorry. No, first of all, we can't even apply to work with such a big company in the first place. I believe that April's connections, Tucker's storytelling skills, and the efforts of all of you have made this project a success. Exactly. It's the result of all of us, April, Tucker, and the team working together. Our colleagues applauded, April acknowledging her leadership in bringing the project to life. This experience helped us all grow, turning a challenge into a rewarding success. In the months that followed, April and I traveled overseas to oversee the new markets we had opened through negotiations and expansion efforts. We both continued to grow. Somewhere along the way, my feelings toward April began to shift. What had started as trust and admiration slowly turned into something more. The words April once said to me, "I will never betray you. I'll always be on your side," were etched deeply into my heart like a balm over my old wounds. Our bond of trust grew stronger and stronger. I began to see April as someone truly special, and it didn't take long for me to realize that she felt the same. We had been by each other's side, encouraging and supporting one another every step of the way. It was because of April that I could finally truly believe in someone again. One day, I made up my mind to confess my feelings. "April, could I talk to you tonight? I'd like to ask for some of your time." "Sure," she replied, looking at me curiously. Feeling overwhelmed, I quickly added, "Well, see you tonight then," and stepped away. My heart pounded so fast it felt like it might leap out of my chest. I took several deep breaths, trying to steady myself, but my nervousness didn't escape. "My colleagues, you're finally confessing, huh?" One whispered with a grin. Yeah, I guess so." "Don't worry," Tucker said. "If she turns you down, I'll take you out for drinks." I couldn't tell if he was comforting me or just looking for an excuse to drink, but somehow his easygoing attitude calmed me down a bit. For that, I was grateful. That night, as soon as I met April, I blurted out my feelings. "April, I love you. Please be with me." I was going to say the same thing, she replied with a radiant smile. "Really?" I asked, almost unable to believe it. "Yes, of course," she said. Overwhelmed with joy, I held her hands tightly, too tightly. "Ouch, Tucker," she exclaimed. "Ah, sorry," I muttered. And just like that, we began dating. At work, we maintained our professional roles as a manager and subordinate, but in private, I took the lead. Together, we supported each other both personally and professionally, and our bond deepened every day. The bond between me and April grew stronger with each passing day, and I had definitely come to trust her more than anyone else. By the time a year had passed, I knelt before her, holding out a ring. "April, will you marry me?" She was too surprised to speak at first, but then, with tears streaming down her face, she smiled and slid the ring onto her finger. I pulled her into my arms, saying, "We'll be together forever." I felt a small yes in my chest as we shared the news with our families right away. When I visited April's home, I was stunned by the sheer grandeur of her family's estate, but her parents welcomed me warmly. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a familiar face. Well, we meet again," Tucker said. It was April's grandfather. "Mr. Hartman," I said. "Granddad was more excited about this than I was," April laughed. "Of course, I knew I'd see you again," he said. "My instincts are never wrong." Yes, April's grandfather was more pleased than anyone else. "Is this man Mr. Hartman of that K Corporation?" someone asked. He just loves his grandchildren, and his face was full of kindness. Soon after, surrounded by the blessings of family, friends, and colleagues, April and I were married. Not long after, April shared the news that we were expecting a child. "I'll get to hold my great-grandchild," a grandpa said with a smile on his face. As for me, I felt the immense weight and joy of becoming a father. If any one person in my life had been missing, I would never have met this new life. A family exists because life has passed down and connected through generations. To protect this family, I knew I had to work even harder. I had friends who understood the struggles I once carried alone and supported me through it all. What we overcame together became the foundation of my confidence. I realized that people can change if they want to. It just takes the right opportunity and the support of those around them. The emotionless, indifferent version of myself no longer existed. I reflected on how fortunate I am to have people in my life, and I was once again grateful for the connections I have made and will continue to make. My name is Kevin, and I've always believed in building something that lasts. Whether it's relationships, a career, or a legacy, I've poured everything I had into the things I cared about. Growing up, I watched my parents struggle to make ends meet. My father, a quiet man with calloused hands, worked long hours at his small hardware store. My mother, ever resourceful, held the family together with her warmth and resilience. We didn't have much, but what we lacked in money, we made up for in determination. My father taught me that man's word is his bond, and my mother showed me the power of hope, even in the darkest moments. They didn't know it, but their sacrifices planted the seed of ambition in me, a relentless drive to succeed. By the time I turned 18, I decided to forge my own path. College wasn't an option. The tuition alone was more than my family earned in a year. So, I started small, just like my dad had. I took odd jobs, saved every penny, and eventually launched my first venture, a modest tech startup run out of a garage. Fast forward 2 decades, and that startup had transformed into a multi-million-dollar company with a sleek office in the heart of the city. I was proud of what I'd built, but I wasn't one to micromanage. Instead, I hired smart, ambitious people to handle the day-to-day operations, allowing me to focus on strategy and growth. That's when Amanda entered the picture. She was sharp, charismatic, and brought a fresh perspective to the company. When I promoted her to CEO, I believed she was the perfect person to steer the ship while I took a step back. For years, things ran smoothly. Amanda's leadership earned the company new accolades, and I had the freedom to explore other ventures. But something changed. Subtly at first, missed updates, decisions made without my input. But soon enough, I found myself increasingly sidelined. Then came the day Amanda made her move. I walked into the boardroom for a routine meeting, only to find her standing at the head of the table, her gaze cold and unwavering. "Kevin," she said, her voice firm, "we need to talk." Little did I know, that conversation would append everything I thought I knew about my own company and Amanda. As Amanda addressed the board, I could feel the tension in the room. Her calm, confident demeanor didn't betray an ounce of hesitation. She motioned for me to sit down, but I remained standing, bracing myself for what was coming. "Kevin," she began, "after careful consideration, we believe it's time for a change in leadership. Your contributions have been invaluable, but the company has outgrown its current structure." I raised an eyebrow, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. "A change in leadership," I echoed, my voice steady but edged with disbelief. "Yes," Amanda said, folding her hands neatly on the table. "Effective immediately, we're asking you to step away from the company." A silence fell over the room, thick and suffocating. I scanned the faces of the board members, people I had handpicked over the years. Some looked away, avoiding my gaze. Others were expressions of awkward sympathy. My pulse quickened. "Amanda, I own 90% of this company," I said firmly. "You don't have the authority to make that decision." "That's technically true," she admitted, her tone unsettlingly composed. "But as CEO, I have the authority to act in the best interest of the company. And frankly, Kevin, your involvement has been distracting." "Distracting?" I repeated, anger flaring now. "I've been hands-off for years. What exactly are you accusing me of? Amanda leaned forward, her gaze piercing. It's not about accusations. It's about perception. The board and I agree that your presence as a majority owner sends the wrong message to investors. They see a founder who's no longer actively engaged, and it makes them nervous. Her words hit like a slap. The company I'd built from the ground up, pouring in years of sweat and sacrifice, was now turning against me. Amanda wasn't just making a power play. She was rewriting the narrative of my role in the business. The stakes were monumental. If Amanda succeeded in pushing me out, I wouldn't just lose control of the company. I'd lose the legacy I had worked my entire life to create. But the betrayal cut even deeper. I had trusted Amanda, mentored her, and elevated her to the top position. To see her now, orchestrating this coup, was like being stabbed in the back by someone you once considered family. I took a deep breath, willing myself to stay calm. Let me make one thing clear, I said, my voice steady but laced with warning. This company wouldn't exist without me. You don't get to decide when I'm no longer needed. Amanda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I understand how you feel, Kevin. Truly, I do. But business isn't personal. It's about doing what's right for the future of the company. The meeting ended in a stalemate, but I knew this was far from over. Over the next few weeks, Amanda escalated her campaign against me. She began sowing doubt among the staff, quietly implying that my involvement was hindering progress. She leaked strategic plans to key investors, framing them as her own initiatives, while subtly painting me as an obstacle. The emotional toll was immense. I found myself questioning everything. My judgment, my trust in people, even my ability to fight back. For the first time in years, I felt powerless in my own company. And yet, giving up wasn't an option. This wasn't just about the business. It was about standing up for what was right. I had to confront Amanda head-on, not just to reclaim my position, but to protect the integrity of what I'd built. But how? She had the board, the employees, and even some investors on her side. The odds were stacked against me, and every move I made seemed to play into her hands. As the pressure mounted, I realized this wasn't just a battle for control, it was a test of character. Would I crumble under the weight of betrayal, or would I rise to the challenge and prove that some legacies are worth fighting for? The weeks following Amanda's ultimatum were a blur of meetings, legal battles, and subtle manipulations. My world, which had once felt firmly under my control, now seemed like it was slipping through my fingers. I wasn't just fighting for my company. I was fighting for my identity, my legacy, and the trust I had placed in the people around me. Amanda's moves grew more calculated. She wasn't just isolating me from the board. She was turning my closest allies against me. Brad, the CFO, had been one of my earliest supporters. He and I had weathered the toughest storms in the company's early days. But now, he avoided eye contact and would quickly change the subject whenever I tried to speak with him privately. "Have you seen the new quarterly projections?" he asked, his voice too casual, as we passed each other in the hallway one day. "Amanda's done a lot to streamline the budget. We're going to hit new highs this year." I could feel the tension in his voice, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. "Brad," I said, stopping him. "We need to talk. You've been avoiding me. What's really going on here?" His eyes darted nervously around, and he leaned in, lowering his voice. "Kevin, I know you're upset, but Amanda has a vision. You know how things have been. Some of the changes she's pushing for make sense." I took a step back, the words hitting harder than I expected. Brad wasn't just distancing himself. He was rationalizing Amanda's actions, almost as though he believed I was the one out of touch. It was a painful realization that I was losing people I once considered friends. But it wasn't just Brad. I walked into the office one morning to find a large section of the staff gathered in the break room, all talking in hushed tones. I recognized the signs. Rumors were swirling. The once vibrant energy in the office had shifted to something darker, more divided. Kevin, can we talk? It was Sarah, one of the senior project managers, who had been with the company since the early days. Her face was pale, and she looked conflicted. Of course, I said, gesturing toward my office. We sat down, and for a moment, there was silence between us, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. I don't know how to say this, Sarah began, her voice shaky. But Amanda has been making things difficult for people who support you. I leaned forward, a surge of hope rising. What do you mean? She's been threatening to cut funding for departments if certain people don't fall in line. Sarah continued, her eyes darting around nervously. There's talk of layoffs if the board doesn't back her. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about the people I had brought into the company, the ones who had helped it grow. Amanda wasn't just isolating me, she was destabilizing everything. Sarah, I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. You need to stand your ground. We can't let her tear this place apart. I'm trying, Kevin, she whispered. But she's ruthless. The pressure is mounting, and people are scared. I don't want to lose my job. I watched her leave, my heart heavy. I had always prided myself on creating a workplace where loyalty and trust meant something. Now those very qualities were being weaponized against me, and the foundation I had built was crumbling under the weight of Amanda's ambition. I couldn't afford to sit back and let this happen. But each move I made seemed to give Amanda more leverage. I attempted to reach out to investors, hoping to regain some ground. But when I met with Gerald, one of the largest shareholders, he was polite but distant. Kevin, I think you're misunderstanding the situation. Gerald said, his tone all business. Amanda has a clear vision for the company's future. She's been running things smoothly, and that's what we need right now. Your involvement has become more of a distraction than an asset. The words stung, and I could feel my grip on reality slipping. I was being painted as the villain in my own story. The company I had built with blood, sweat, and tears was being portrayed as a sinking ship with me at the helm. Amanda had successfully turned the narrative, and no one seemed willing to listen to the truth. Then came the breaking point. A few days after my meeting with Gerald, I received an email from Amanda. It was brief, curt, and to the point. I've scheduled a board meeting for tomorrow. The motion to remove you as majority shareholder will be on the agenda. I suggest you prepare for the inevitable. It's time to move on. I sat in my office, staring at the screen, feeling the weight of those words press down on me. This wasn't just a corporate power struggle anymore. It was a personal attack. Amanda was not only trying to seize control of the company, she was trying to erase my very existence from the company's history. I had to act. Fast. But with every passing hour, the walls closed in tighter. The board was already on Amanda's side, and the employees, those few who had stood by me, were scattered, uncertain. My options were dwindling. It was clear that this wasn't just a fight for the company. It was a fight for my dignity, my identity, and everything I had built. If I didn't find a way to turn the tide, I would lose it all. And not just the company, but my place in this world. The day of the board meeting arrived like a storm on the horizon, ominous and inescapable. I walked into the conference room, my heart pounding in my chest. Every step felt heavier, every breath shallower. The once familiar space, where I had made countless decisions with ease, now felt like an alien battlefield. The air was thick with tension as I took my seat at the long table, facing the very people I had trusted to help steer this company. Amanda was already seated at the head of the table, her expression cool and detached. She barely acknowledged me as I entered, which only fueled the fire burning in my gut. The entire board was present, and the murmurs died down as the meeting began. Let's get started, Amanda said, her voice calm and assertive. As per the agenda, we're here to vote on the motion to formally remove Kevin as majority shareholder. The words hit like a punch to the stomach, but I fought to keep my composure. I had prepared for this, but nothing could truly ready me for the finality of it. This wasn't just a business decision. It was the culmination of everything Amanda had done to undermine me. It was personal. I looked around the room, my gaze lingering on each board member's face. Brad was there, sitting with his arms crossed, his eyes avoiding mine. Sarah, the senior manager who had once trusted me, sat a few seats down, her expression conflicted. The betrayal was written on their faces, but it wasn't enough to sway the vote. Amanda had won them over, some with promises of future gain, others with the fear of losing their jobs. The vote was about to begin, and I had one last chance to make my case. Before we proceed, I said, my voice cutting through the tension like a knife, I need to remind you all of something. I built this company. I took every risk, sacrificed everything for it. This isn't just a business to me. It's my legacy. I am the reason any of you are sitting here today. Without me, there is no company. There is no future. There was a brief silence as my words hung in the air. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, but I knew it wasn't enough. Amanda had already controlled the narrative, turned the room against me, and now I was struggling to hold onto the very foundation I had built. Amanda stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Kevin, she said, her voice dripping with a false sympathy, I understand how you feel, but this isn't about you. It's about the company's future. You've been a great founder, but you've lost touch with the needs of the business. I clenched my fists, the anger rising like a tidal wave. You're wrong, Amanda. You're wrong about everything. You think this is just about business, but you've forgotten everything that made this company what it is. You've forgotten the heart of it. Amanda's eyes narrowed, a thin smile tugging at her lips. You don't get it, Kevin. You were always the heart of this company. But a heart can only keep beating for so long without the rest of the body. It's time to move on. The room fell silent as the vote was called. Each board member cast their vote with the cold efficiency of someone who had already made up their mind. My stomach churned as I watched them. Each vote felt like a dagger, each passing moment another step closer to losing everything. And then it happened. Brad, the CFO, the man I had trusted more than anyone, cast his vote against me. The final blow. Kevin, Brad said softly, I'm sorry. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just a betrayal of the company. It was a betrayal of everything I had ever believed in. My trust, my loyalty, had been shattered in a single moment. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight back with everything I had left. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. I couldn't change the outcome of this meeting, no matter how hard I tried. The vote was done. Amanda had won. But as the board members left the room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her take everything from me. I still held 90% of the company. I still had power. And if Amanda thought she could erase me from the company's history, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. I walked out of the room, my mind racing, my heart still pounding in my chest. I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let her take my legacy, my life's work, without a fight. The days following the board meeting were a blur of legal proceedings and tense negotiations. The moment the vote had been cast, I knew Amanda had effectively taken control. The company was hers, at least on paper. But in my heart, I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something bigger. I spent the first few days reeling. The sting of betrayal was still raw, and every time I saw the company's logo on a building or an email, it felt like a gut punch. It was as if I had lost a part of myself. But slowly, something started to shift within me. I had built this company from the ground up with my blood, sweat, and tears. That didn't just disappear because of a boardroom vote. I was still the majority shareholder. I was still Kevin, the founder, the driving force behind everything that had made this company successful. So, I began to plan. I reached out to the remaining allies I had left, people who still believed in what we had built together. There were a few employees who hadn't been swayed by Amanda's promises and threats, and I found strength in their loyalty. I began to gather support, talking to key investors who had remained neutral in the vote, showing them the truth. Amanda was running the company with ambition. Yes, but at the expense of its integrity. The battle wasn't going to be easy. Amanda had resources, a strong PR team, and an iron grip on the board. But I had something she didn't: history. I had been here from the start. I knew the company's soul, and I knew how to reignite the fire that had once made it great. Weeks later, I found myself back in the boardroom, only this time, I wasn't fighting to keep my seat at the table. I was fighting for the company's soul. With the support of a few key investors who had been swayed by my persistence, I called for a vote of no confidence in Amanda. It was a long shot, but I was done playing defense. The meeting was tense. The board members, now visibly divided, exchanged looks and whispered amongst themselves. Amanda's confident facade had begun to crack. She had underestimated me, thinking that the company's foundation would crumble without her. What she hadn't realized was that she wasn't the heart of the company. I was. The vote passed. Amanda was out. The room erupted into murmurs as I sat back, a sense of vindication washing over me. But it wasn't the sweet taste of revenge that I craved. It was the knowledge that I had protected what I had worked so hard to build. The company had been mine long before Amanda took the CEO position, and it would remain mine. The aftermath of the vote wasn't without its challenges. There were lawsuits, media scrutiny, and an overwhelming amount of stress. But through it all, I felt a new sense of clarity. I had been humbled by this experience. For so long, I had defined myself by the success of the company, by my role as its founder. But the truth was, I had become too complacent. I had trusted too easily and let others dictate the direction of something I had worked so hard to create. The lesson was hard, but it was necessary. Power is not something that can be given away lightly, and trust should be earned, not assumed. I had learned that leadership isn't just about being at the top. It's about remaining grounded, being present, and understanding the true nature of those around you. Amanda, for all her brilliance, had forgotten that. She had believed that her vision could replace the heart of the company, but I had reminded everyone that the heart can't be replaced. It can only be nurtured. In the months that followed, I took a more active role in the company again. I reconnected with the employees, rebuilding the culture that had made the company great in the first place. I focused on innovation, on nurturing the next generation of leaders, and on rebuilding the trust that had been fractured by Amanda's betrayal. The company didn't just survive, it thrived. But more importantly, so did I. I had come face to face with my greatest challenge, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Sometimes, the hardest lessons are the ones that shape us the most. I had lost control of everything I held dear, but in doing so, I had gained a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. The company wasn't just about profits or prestige. It was about the people, the culture, and the shared belief that together, we could achieve something extraordinary. And in the end, that was what had made all the difference.